My dad demanded that I pay $2,300 for my sister's upcoming baby. I refused. 2 days later, they asked me to give her my house again. I said no, Mom added. Some people just don't understand family support. Dad agreed. Selfish children don't deserve to live here. Brother smirked. Finally getting what I actually deserve. They kicked me out. 1 year later, karma hit back. My name is Ingrid and I'm 28 years old. This happened about a year ago and I'm still processing everything that went down. I need to get this off my chest because the whole situation was so ridiculous that I sometimes wonder if I dreamed it all. Let me start from the beginning. I come from what I thought was a normal middle-class family. My parents, Dominic and Rosalind, raised me alongside my younger siblings. My sister Valeria, who's 24, and my brother Axel, who's 22. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, while Valeria was the princess who could do no wrong. And Axel was the golden boy who got away with everything. I was expected to be the mature, level-headed daughter who helped keep everyone in line. I worked my ass off in school, got a scholarship to college, and landed a great job as a software engineer right after graduation. I saved every penny I could. Lived in a tiny apartment for 4 years and finally bought my own house when I was 27. It wasn't anything fancy, just a modest 3-bedroom ranch in a decent neighborhood. But it was mine. I was so proud of that house. I remember calling my parents the day I got the keys, expecting them to be proud too instead. My dad's first comment was, "It's about time you had somewhere the family could stay when we visit." That should have been my first red flag. Valeria, on the other hand, had always been the free spirit. She bounced from job to job, never keeping anything for more than 6 months. She moved back in with my parents 3 times since high school. The last time was 2 years ago, when she was 22, after she got fired from her job at a local boutique for showing up late too many times. My parents welcomed her back with open arms. Of course, Axel wasn't much better. He graduated college but couldn't seem to find his calling. He'd been living in my parents' basement for the past 18 months, working part-time at a video game store and spending most of his time playing online games. But somehow he was still the favorite son who could do no wrong. The drama started about 13 months ago. Valeria had been dating this guy named Ezra for about 8 months. Ezra was, well, let's just say he wasn't exactly what you'd call ambitious. He worked at a gas station and spent most of his free time smoking weed and playing guitar in his friend's garage band that had exactly zero prospects. But Valeria was head over heels in love with him. Then came the announcement. Valeria called me on a Tuesday evening, practically screaming into the phone. Ingrid. Ingrid, I have news. What's up? And I'm pregnant. I nearly dropped my phone. You are what? Pregnant. Ezra and I are having a baby. I'm about 3 months along already. I tried to sound supportive, but honestly, I was worried. Valeria could barely take care of herself, let alone a baby. And Ezra. Don't get me started on Ezra. That's... Wow. That's big news. Are you guys planning to get married? Eventually, yeah. But first, we need to figure out the baby stuff. That's actually why I'm calling. Here it comes. I thought I need help with the baby expenses. You know, cribs, clothes, diapers, all that stuff. It's so expensive, Ingrid. I had no idea. Babies needed so much. I should have said no right then. I should have told her that having a baby was her responsibility, not mine. But I love my sister, despite everything. And I wanted to help. How much are we talking about? Well, I made a list. I think I'll need about $3,500 to get everything I need before the baby comes. I want the best crib, the safest car seat, organic clothes, the works. $3,500. That was more than I spent on myself in 4 months. Valeria. That's a lot of money. Maybe you should look into secondhand stores or ask if people want to throw you a baby shower. But I want everything to be perfect for my baby. And Ezra's parents can't help. They're barely making ends meet. You're the only one in the family who has money. The only one who has money. Not the only one who worked for it. Saved for it. Sacrificed for it. Just the only one who had it. I'll need to think about it and think about it. Ingrid, I'm your sister. This is your nephew or niece we're talking about. I promised I'd get back to her, but I was already feeling uncomfortable about the whole thing. 2 days later, my dad called me. Ingrid, your mother and I need to talk to you. Can you come over for dinner on Sunday? I should have known something was up. My parents never invited me over just for dinner anymore. It was always some family gathering or holiday. But like an idiot, I said yes. Sunday dinner was awkward from the start. Everyone was there. My parents, Valeria, Axel, and even Ezra, who looked high as a kite. The conversation was stilted and I could tell something was brewing. After dinner, my dad cleared his throat. Ingrid, we need to discuss Valerie's situation. What about it? Well, she's going to need help with the baby expenses. As her older sister and the one who's doing well financially, we think you should contribute. I felt my stomach drop dead. Valeria already asked me, and I told her. I think about it. Think about it. My mom jumped in. Ingrid, this is family. You don't think about helping family. It's $3,500. That's not exactly pocket change. Axel snorted from across the table. Come on, Ingrid. You make good money. Mom showed me your tax forms from when you applied for the house loan as a reference. You can afford it. My dad leaned forward. Ingrid. Valeria needs this money. She's having a baby and she's struggling. You have a good job, a house, no real expenses. This is what family does for each other. No real expenses. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad, I have a mortgage, utilities, car payments, student loans, all luxuries. My mom interrupted things that Valeria can't afford because she's focusing on starting a family. I looked around the table. Everyone was staring at me like I was some kind of monster. Even Ezra was nodding along. Though I'm pretty sure he was just trying to stay awake. I'll consider it. I said finally, just to end the conversation. But my dad wasn't done considering. Ingrid. This isn't a request. This is your responsibility as Valerie's sister. My responsibility? Yes. Valeria has always been there for you. When I interrupted. When has Valeria ever been there for me? When I was working 2 jobs to pay for college. When I was living on ramen noodles to save for my house down payment. When exactly was she there for me? Valerie has started tearing up. Ingrid, I can't believe you're being so mean to me. I'm pregnant. I'm not being mean, Valeria. I'm being realistic. Having a baby is expensive, and it's not my responsibility to pay for it. But you're my sister, and you're mine. But that doesn't mean I owe you thousands of dollars every time you make a life decision. The room erupted. My parents started yelling about family values and responsibility. Axel was calling me selfish. Valerie was crying as we just sat there, looking confused. I stood up to leave, but my dad grabbed my arm. Ingrid, you're not leaving until we settle this. There's nothing to settle. Dad, I'm not giving Valeria $2,300. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. We stared at each other for a long moment. I could see the anger building in his eyes. The same look he used to get when I was a kid and didn't do what he wanted. Fine. He said, finally, if you won't help your sister with the baby expenses, then you're going to help her another way. What do you mean? Valerie and Ezra need a place to live. Somewhere they can raise their baby properly. Your house would be perfect. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My house? Yes. You have 3 bedrooms and you're only using 1. Valeria and Ezra could move in, and you could help them save money for when the baby comes. Dad, that's my house. I worked for 4 years to save up and buy it. And now you can share it with your sister who needs it more than you do. I looked around the table again. Everyone was nodding like this was the most reasonable thing in the world. No, I said firmly. Absolutely not. Ingrid, my mom started. No, Mom, this is insane. You're asking me to give up my house for Valeria and Ezra. They're adults. They can figure out their own living situation. They can't afford their own place. Valeria wailed. Ezra's job doesn't pay enough. And I can't work right now because of morning sickness. Then maybe you should have thought about that before getting pregnant. The words came out harsher than I intended. What I was past tearing the entire conversation was ridiculous. My dad stood up, his face, red with anger. Ingrid, you're being selfish. This is your family. Some people just don't understand family support. Some people don't understand that family support doesn't mean giving up everything you've worked for. It does when your sister needs it more than you do. My mom added, called me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These were my parents. The people who had raised me supposedly love me, and they were asking me to give up my home for my sister and her unemployed boyfriend. I'm not giving Valerie in my house. I said as coming as I could manage. Then you're not welcome in this family? My dad replied. The room went silent, even a little shocked. Dominic, my mom started, but he held up his hand. No, Rosalind. Selfish children don't deserve to live here. If Ingrid can't understand what family means, then she's not part of this family. I felt tears stinging my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Fine. If that's how you feel, then I guess I know where I stand.
I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. As I was leaving, I heard Axel say, finally getting what I actually deserve. I turned back. What did you say? Axel grinned. I said, I'm finally getting what I actually deserve. With you out of the picture. Maybe Mom and Dad will finally see that I'm the kid who's been here all along. You mean the kid who's been living in their basement for 18 months? Better than the kid who abandoned her family. I left without another word. I cried the entire drive home. Not because I was sad, but because I was so angry I couldn't see straight. How dare they ask me to give up everything I worked for? How dare they act like I was a villain in this situation? But the worst part was that I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I should have just given Valeria the money and let her and Ezra move in. Maybe I was a terrible sister and daughter. Those doubts lasted about a week. Then I remembered all the times I had helped Valeria before the time I paid her rent. When she was 3 months behind. The time I bought her car. When hers broke down, the time I lent her money for a security deposit that she never paid back. And I realized that I wasn't being selfish. I was being reasonable. I tried calling my parents a few times over the next month, but they wouldn't answer. I tried texting Valeria, but she left me on read. Axel actually blocked me on social media. It was like I'd never existed. The silence was deafening. I'd gone from having a family to being completely alone in the span of one dinner. But you know what? I was okay. I had my job, my house, my friends. I didn't need people in my life who only valued me for what I could give them. The hardest part was in the loneliness. It was the self-doubt. Late at night, I'd lie awake wondering if I really was as selfish as they've made me feel. I'd replay that dinner conversation over and over in my head, analyzing every word, every expression. Maybe I should have just given Valerie the money. Maybe I should have let them move into my house. Maybe I was the problem. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Thornfield, who helped me work through these feelings. Ingrid, she said during one of our sessions, what you're describing isn't family support. It's financial abuse. They're using emotional manipulation to get you to pay for their choices. But they're my family. I protested. Isn't family supposed to help each other? Help? Yes. But help should be mutual and reasonable. What they asked of you was neither mutual nor reasonable. They wanted you to sacrifice your financial security for someone else's poor planning. Those sessions helped me realize that I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish, and I wasn't wrong. I was just the only one in my family who had learned to set boundaries. About 3 months later, I ran into my mom at the grocery store. She saw me coming and literally turned around and walked the other way. I followed her. Mom. Can we please talk about this? She turned to face me and I was shocked by how tired she looked. There's nothing to talk about, Ingrid. You made your choice. I chose not to give up my house and my life savings. How is that wrong? You chose yourself over your family. I chose not to be taken advantage of. She shook her head. You just don't understand what family means. I understand perfectly. Family means being there for each other when it matters. It doesn't mean sacrificing everything you've worked for because someone else made poor decisions. Valerie, you didn't make poor decisions. She fell in love and decided to start a family with someone who can't support her or their child. That's not your business. It became my business when you asked me to pay for it. My mom looked at me like I was a stranger. I don't know what happened to you. Ingrid used to be such a caring person. I still am. I'm just not stupid anymore. She walked away without another word. That was the last time I spoke to any of them. 4 months. I threw myself into my work, hung out with friends, and tried to build a life that didn't revolve around my family's drama. It was actually pretty nice. I got a promotion at work, started dating a great guy named Everett, and even took a vacation to Europe. Something I never would have been able to afford if I'd given Valerie that money. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss them. Despite everything, they were still my family. I wondered how Valerie was doing, whether the baby was healthy. If my parents were happy, I even missed Axel as annoying as he was. Then, about 10 months after the big blow-up, I started hearing things through mutual friends. Valerie, I had had the baby. A little girl named Juniper. She was healthy, which I was genuinely happy about. But apparently things weren't going well for Valeria and Ezra. According to my friend Jessica, who was friends with Valeria's former co-worker, Ezra had been fired from his job at the gas station for showing up drunk. Valerie was struggling to take care of the baby on her own while also trying to work part-time at a retail store. They'd moved in with Ezra's parents, but that wasn't going well either. My parents, meanwhile, were apparently stressed about the whole situation. They'd been helping Valerie financially, but they were both close to retirement and didn't have a lot of extra money. Axel was still living with them, still working part-time and still not contributing much to the household. I felt bad for Valerie. I really did. But I also felt vindicated if Ezra couldn't even keep a job at a gas station. How was I supposed to believe he could help support a baby? And if my parents couldn't afford to help Olivia, how is it fair for them to expect me to give up thousands of dollars in my house? About 12 months after the dinner from hell, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Hello? Ingrid, it's Axel. I was so surprised I nearly dropped the phone. Axel? Yeah. Listen, I need to talk to you. Can you meet me somewhere like, not at Mom and Dad's house? His voice sounded strange, almost desperate. Why? What's going on? I can't talk about it over the phone. Can you meet me at that coffee shop on Main Street? The one near your old apartment? Against my better judgment. I agreed. Axel was already there when I arrived. Sitting in a corner booth with a cup of coffee that looked like it had been sitting there for hours. He looked terrible, then tired and older than his 26 years. Thanks for coming, he said as I sat down. What's going on, Axel? You look awful, he laughed bitterly. Thanks. Real confidence booster. I'm serious. Are you okay? No, Ingrid, I'm not okay. None of us are okay. I ordered a coffee and waited for him to continue. Everything's falling apart. He said finally. Valerie is a mess, as he is a complete disaster. Mom and Dad are stressed out of their minds. And I. He paused, looking down at his hands. I've been a complete idiot. What do you mean? I mean, I've been living like a teenager for the past 18 months while my parents supported me. I thought I was so smart. You know? I thought I had it all figured out. But I don't. I'm 22 years old, and I have nothing to show for it. This was not what I'd expected when I agreed to meet him. Axel, let me finish. I need to say this. He took a deep breath. I was wrong about you. We all were. You weren't being selfish when you refused to give Valerie your money in your house. You were being smart. You were being responsible. And instead of seeing that, we all ganged up on you because it was easier than admitting that Valerie and Ezra were making stupid decisions. I felt my throat tighten. Why are you telling me this now? Because everything you said would happen has happened. Ezra's been fired. 3 times since the baby was born. Valerie is exhausted and depressed. They're living with his parents, and it's a disaster. His mom and Valerie to fight constantly. The baby cries all the time because nobody knows what they're doing. And Mom and Dad. They're drowning. They're giving Valeria thousands of dollars that they didn't have. Dad's been working overtime to help pay for baby stuff. Mom's been babysitting Jennifer almost every day so Valerie can work. They're exhausted, Ingrid, and they're broke. I felt a mix of sadness and anger. Sadness for my parents. Anger that it had come to this. What about you? I finally got my act together. I got a full-time job at an accounting firm. I'm moving out next month. I should have done it a year and a half ago. But I was too comfortable being the baby of the family. That's great, Axel. I'm proud of you. No, baby. I'm 2 years behind where I should be because I was too lazy to grow up. And I said horrible things to you because I was jealous. Jealous? Of course I was jealous. You had your life together. You had a good job, a house, independence. I had nothing. And instead of being inspired by you, I resented you. It was easier to call you selfish than to admit I was a failure. We sat in silence for a moment. Ingrid, I need to ask you something, and I'll understand if you say no. What? Will you please come to dinner on Sunday? Mom and Dad miss you there to prove to admit they were wrong. But they miss you. We all do. I felt tears starting to form. Axel, I don't know if I can. They kicked me out of the family. They said I didn't deserve to be there. They were wrong. And deep down, they know it. But they're stubborn and they're embarrassed. They backed themselves into a corner, and they don't know how to get out. What makes you think they want me back? Because Mom still has your graduation photo on the mantle. Because Dad asks about you every time he sees Jessica's mom at the store. Because Valeria cries about missing you at least once a week. I wait my eyes. I don't know, Axel. I'm not sure I'm ready to pretend like nothing happened. I'm not asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to give us a chance to make things right. I agreed to think about it, but I wasn't sure I was ready to walk back into that house. I built a good life without them, and I wasn't sure I wanted to risk having it torn apart again. But they'd, as they say, has a funny way of making decisions for you. 2 days after my coffee with Axel, I got a call from my mom. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her mom. What's wrong, Ingrid? It's your father. He's in the hospital. He had a heart attack at work. My world stopped. What? Is he okay? I don't know. They're doing tests now. Can you come, please? I didn't hesitate. I'm on my way. I drove to the hospital in a daze. Despite everything that had happened. I couldn't imagine losing my dad. He was stubborn and sometimes unreasonable. But he was still my father. The entire family was in the waiting room when I arrived. My mom was sitting next to Axel, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. Valeria was in the corner with Ezra holding baby Juniper. She looked up when I walked in and I could see the relief in her eyes. Ingrid, my mom, said, standing up. You came? Of course I came. She hugged me tightly and I could feel her shaking. I'm so sorry. She whispered. I'm so sorry about everything. It's okay, Mom. We can talk about it later. How's Dad? They think he's going to be okay, but they want to keep him overnight for observation. The doctor said it was a mild heart attack. Probably brought on by stress. Stress? I wondered how much of that stress was related to Valerie, his situation, and their financial problems. We spent the next few hours in the hospital waiting room. Valerie and I didn't talk much, but there was an unspoken understanding between us. Whatever had happened before, we were family and we needed to be there for each other. When Dad was finally stable and resting, the doctor came out to talk to us. Mr. Johnson is going to be fine, she said. But he needs to reduce his stress levels and maybe consider cutting back on work. Heart attacks, even mild ones, are serious wake-up calls. After the doctor left, we all sat in silence for a moment. Mom, I said finally. You and Dad should come stay with me for a few days. Just until Dad's feeling better. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Ingrid, after everything we said to you, you're my parents. I love you. We can work through the rest later. Valeria spoke up from the corner. Ingrid, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about everything. You were right about Ezra. Other money. About all of it. I was being selfish and irresponsible. I looked at my little sister, holding her baby, looking exhausted and defeated. We all made mistakes. Let's just focus on Dad right now. But Valeria shook her head. No. I need to say this. You were trying to protect me from making bad decisions, and I was too stubborn to listen. Ezra and I, we're not working out. He's not ready to be a father. And I'm not ready to be in a relationship with someone who won't grow up. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm moving back in with Mom and Dad temporarily, and Ezra is going back to his parents. We're going to co-parent Juniper, but we're not going to be together. And I'm going to get my act together. I'm going to finish my degree, get a real job, and learn how to be a responsible adult. Valerie, I should have listened to you, Ingrid. You were the only one who was being honest with me, and I hated you for it. I'm sorry. I walked over and hugged her. I love you. And I just want you to be happy and safe. I know. And I love you, too. I've missed you so much. That night, my parents came to stay at my house. It was strange having them there after everything that had happened. But it also felt right. We didn't talk about the fight that first night. We were all too emotionally drained. But over the next few days, we slowly started to work through things. My dad was the first to apologize, Ingrid. I was wrong. I was so focused on trying to help Valeria that I forgot I had another daughter who deserved better for me. Dad, you were trying to help your family. I understand that. But I was asking you to sacrifice everything you worked for. That wasn't fair. And the things I said to you. I'll never forgive myself for that. I forgive you, Dad, but I need you to understand that I'm not going to be the family bank account. I'm happy to help when I can, but I won't be taken advantage of. I understand. And I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I should have been proud of you all along. My mom was harder to reconcile with. She'd been so convinced that I was being selfish that it took her longer to see the situation clearly. But eventually she came around, too. I think I was living vicariously through Valeria, she admitted one evening. I wanted her to have a fairy tale romance and the perfect family, and I was willing to overlook all the red flags because I wanted it to work out so badly. Mom, Valeria can still have those things, but she needs to make better choices first. I know. And I should have supported you when you tried to help her see that the best part of the reconciliation was getting to meet my niece, Jennifer. She was 8 months old by then and absolutely beautiful. Valeria brought her over one afternoon and I fell in love immediately. She's perfect. I said, holding her for the first time. She is. And I want to be the kind of mother she deserves. I want to be the kind of person you can be proud to call your sister. I'm already proud of you. You're making hard choices to do what's best for Juniper. That's what good mothers do. Valerie has started crying. I was so scared. You'd never want to be part of her life. After everything I put you through. Are you kidding? I'm going to be the best aunt ever. I have a whole year's worth of spoiling to catch up on over the next few months. Our family slowly healed. Valerie, who broke up with Ezra unofficially, and moved back in with our parents temporarily. She enrolled in online classes to finish her degree and got a job at a local bank. She was still struggling, but she was trying, and that made all the difference. Axel moved out of our parents' house and into his own apartment. He threw himself into his new job and started dating a nice girl from his office. He was like, a completely different person, confident, responsible, and genuinely happy. My parents started seeing a counselor to work through their financial stress and communication issues. Dad cut back his hours at work and once started taking our classes, something she always wanted to do but never had time for. As for me, I continued building my life. Everett and I got engaged and we started planning the wedding. I got another promotion at work and was finally able to start saving for some of the things I'd always wanted to do, like traveling and maybe eventually buying a bigger house when we got married. But the real karma came about a year after the original fight. I was at Valerie's first birthday party for Juniper when my phone rang. It was Ezra. Ingrid, it's Ezra. I know you probably don't want to talk to me when I need to ask you something. What's up, Ezra? I need to borrow some money. I know I don't deserve to ask, but I'm desperate. I almost laughed. Ezra, you've got to be kidding me. I'm not. I lost my job again, and I can't make rent. I'm going to be evicted if I don't come up with $800 by Friday. What about your parents? They kicked me out. They said I need to figure out my life on my own. And you thought I would help you? I thought maybe since you're doing so well. Ezra, let me ask you something. Where were you when your daughter needed diapers? Where were you when Valeria was working double shifts to pay for childcare? Where were you when she was crying herself to sleep? Because she was overwhelmed and exhausted? I was trying to figure things out. You were getting high and playing video games. You abandoned your responsibilities. And now you want me to bail you out? Ingrid, please. I'm desperate. You know what? I was desperate, too. I was desperate to help my sister. See that she was making a mistake with you. I was desperate to protect my family from financial ruin. But nobody cared about my desperation. They just wanted me to shut up and pay for everything. I'll pay you back, I swear. With what? Money? Ezra, you can't keep a job for more than 3 months. You've never paid Valeria a dime in child support. You've never even bought your own daughter a birthday present. Why would I trust you with my money? Because I'm trying to change. No, you're not. You're just trying to get someone else to solve your problems for you, just like you always have. I hung up on him. And you know what? It felt great. Valerie, who had overheard the conversation, came over to me. Was that Ezra? Yeah. He wanted to borrow money. I'm sorry he called you. I had no idea he was going to do that. Don't apologize. I'm actually glad he called. Why? Because it reminded me why I stood my ground in the first place. A year ago, you and Mom and Dad were angry at me for not supporting Ezra. Now, look where he is. Valerie nodded. You were right about him. You were right about everything. I wasn't trying to be right. I was trying to protect you. I know. And I should have listened. That conversation with Ezra was the final piece of closure I needed. My family had spent months calling me selfish for not supporting Ezra and Valerie. His relationship. But in the end, Ezra had proven that he was exactly the kind of person I'd said he was. Irresponsible, unreliable, and selfish. But the story doesn't end there. About 2 months after Ezra's desperate phone call, I ran into him at a local grocery store. He looked even worse than he had sounded on the phone, unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes and clearly struggling when he saw me. I could see the shame in his eyes. Ingrid, he said quietly. I'm sorry about that phone call. I shouldn't have asked you for money. No, you shouldn't have. I replied. But I'm glad you did. He looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, it reminded me why I made the choices I did. It reminded me that I was protecting not just myself, but my entire family from someone who wasn't ready to be responsible. Ezra's face crumbled. I know. I messed up. I know I let everyone down. Valeria, Juniper. Your parents. I let them all down. Ezra, it's not about letting people down. It's about growing up and taking responsibility for your choices. You had a daughter and instead of stepping up, you kept acting like a teenager. I know. And now I've lost everything. Valerie won't let me see Juniper unless I get my act together. My parents won't talk to me. I'm living in my car. For a moment, I felt sorry for him. But then I remembered all the nights Valerie had cried herself to sleep. All the times she had to choose between buying diapers and buying food. All the stress my parents had endured trying to help her while Ezra did nothing. Ezra, I hope you figure things out, but you need to understand that this isn't something that happened to you. This is something you created. And it's going to take more than feeling sorry for yourself to fix it. I walked away and I never saw him again. But I heard through the grapevine that he eventually got a job at a warehouse in another state and was slowly trying to rebuild his life. Whether he succeeded or not wasn't my concern anymore. The real karma wasn't that Ezra ended up homeless and jobless, though that was certainly poetic justice. The real karma was that my family finally understood what I'd been trying to tell them all along. They'd learned the hard way that enabling bad behavior doesn't help anyone. And that's sometimes the kind of thing you can do, is refuse to be part of someone's self-destruction. As for me, I learned that standing up for yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you strong. I learned that family support shouldn't be a one-way street and that you can love someone without sacrificing your own well-being for them. My family is closer now than we've been in years. We've all learned to communicate better, to set healthier boundaries, and to support each other in ways that actually help rather than enable. Valeria is thriving as a single mom. Axel is building a successful career and my parents are enjoying their semi-retirement. And Ezra. Last I heard, he was living with his cousin in another state, still bouncing from job to job and still blaming everyone else for his problems. I don't wish him ill, but I also don't feel sorry for him. He had chances to step up and be a man and he chose not to take them. Sometimes karma takes a while to come around, but when it does, it's usually exactly what everyone deserved all along. I'm just grateful that I stood my ground long enough to see it happen. The best part of this whole story is that my relationship with my family is stronger than ever. We went through hell together, but we came out the other side with a deeper understanding of what it means to truly support each other. And that's worth more than any amount of money I could have given Valeria for her baby expenses. Looking back, I realized that the night they kicked me out was actually a blessing in disguise. It forced me to build a life that didn't depend on their approval, and it forced them to face the consequences of their actions. If I'd just given in and given Valeria the money, we'd probably still be stuck in the same dysfunctional pattern. Now, when Juniper grows up, she'll have a mother who's independent and strong, a grandmother and grandfather who've learned to set healthy boundaries, and an uncle loves her enough to tell her the truth, even when it's hard to hear. And she'll have the example of what happens when you work hard, make responsible choices, and stand up for yourself. That's the kind of legacy I want to leave, not the legacy of someone who gave up everything to keep the peace, with a legacy of someone who loved her family enough to fight for what was right, even when it was difficult and painful. So yeah, they kicked me out. And yeah, it hurt. But in the end, it was the best thing that could have happened to all of us. Sometimes you have to lose your family to save a